welcome back to the WCS Challenger League for Korea. We had a ZVZ. Kangho having some cool plays, some really aggressive early attacks, but at the end of the day, Hydra did advance back to Code S.
Yeah, Hydra winning 2 ZVZs back-to-back, going straight to Code S now. And we have our second mirror match of the day approaching. This time it's going to be a Protoss versus Protoss with a Hurricane for FX Open going up against another CJNTUS player.
Yeah, Hurricane looking really tired, on the other hand. He's up against Hero here. Someone who, in the past, did decently well in Protoss versus Protoss in Wings of Liberty, but I think Hurricane is kind of favored here just simply because of how much experience he has in Heart of the Swarm comparatively. Playing in the booth, playing in GSTL, playing in the Challenger League, and even in the Premier League he did already. So
well, they actually already faced each other in the second season, and back then Hero took the match with a 2-1 and was also a best of 3. And if you just look at the recent match history of Hero, he doesn't really lose a lot to Protoss these days. He 2-0'd Creator, he 2-0'd Deer. Then he won, of course, in the last season against Hurricane himself, took down Zhangbi and the best. So he doesn't really have a loss in his recent gaming history. But both of them have a very good ratio in Protoss versus Protoss just in general, so it should actually be a match on eye level.
Yeah. Whirlwind is map number 1, so I expect to see, you know, some light aggression, maybe some harassment-oriented build, like an Oracle build or a Phoenix build into late game. I don't think, or mid-game I should say. Late game in Protoss versus Protoss, pretty rare in Heart of the Swarm, but at least both players trying to take next side is what I mean to say, since this map is so big.
Yeah, Twilight Council opening is also something that we could see here. We see that a lot more often these days, and Hurricane has showed us that several times now, also in the GSTL. We've seen it a couple of times. But the two players, they know each other, and so far Hero has the better track record when they are facing each other in the Challenger League. So Hurricane will definitely try to go for the revenge match here and make his way to the Premier League this season. But it should be a pretty interesting match. We had yesterday already a very intense Protoss versus Protoss when an event was going up against SOS. But now we're heading in game to game number 1 here. Quite the big map to start things off. Whirlwind is going to be it. Let's see what Hero and Hurricane can do here in their first game in the best of 3 at the WCS Challenger League in Korea. Kolonbo. Starting to the bottom left for Team FX Open, we have
FXO Hurricane.
Hurricane, a couple of wins just recently against pros players like Huangsheng, First, and Mainz. Also successful against Huck and Stork. A pretty good track record just recently, a lot of matches won. The same is true for his opponent though. The bottom right of the map we have for CJNTUS.
CJNTUS Hero.
And Hero is also on a winning streak in offline PvP in Heart of the Swarm, and he was also successful against Hurricane in the second season of the Challenger League when he was able to defeat the FX Open player with a 2-1. He of course wants to repeat that today, but let's see if he can really pull it off. Hurricane definitely a player who has improved in the last few weeks quite significantly. But with the win ratio of like 60% in Protoss versus Protoss for both of them, funny as it is with nearly the same amount of maps played, it should be a really interesting PvP to watch.
Yeah, especially because they have history. They played against each other already before. Hero did take it, but it wasn't a 2-0, it was a 2-1. So it went to game 3. We'll see how this one plays out. Both players taking double gas. I don't know if the timing's here. And they are spawned close, but they don't know it. Neither player is going for the pylon scout, which is pretty standard on a map like this. Especially any 4-player map, generally you're going to skip it. And on this map, they don't even scout at all because it's so big. And they both take a little bit of a risk for it, but it's going to pay off just a little bit in minerals. But neither one getting an edge since nobody scouts.
And right now, of course, the transition is going to be the most important thing here. Will we see an expansion play by one of these players, Twilight Council, and then either the Blink build or going into DTs right away is going to be, well, it's actually really popular these days. We've seen it in the Team League over and over again, but also in the individual league. It's quite the successful build and really popular with the players. And the Scout is going to be actually the same for both of them. I expected Hero for a second to send his probe to the bottom left, but as it turns out, both of them will scout very late where their opponent spawns. The probes probably meeting each other in the middle of the map. So no idea what's going on here. And that's the Twilight Council already for Hero, as expected.
Yep. Twilight Council goes down. Sentry, on the other hand, for Hurricane. Looking like he's leaning more towards an expansion-oriented build. And Twilight Council on this map can mean DTs or Blink. DTs generally being more standard. But the thing about Blink on this map is there's not a whole lot of Blink area to use when you're attacking. So you're gonna really hope that your opponent goes for a Nexus if you go for a Blink build on this map.
A lot of players will, from DTs, just go into an expansion and use the DTs as a defensive measure, but at the same time putting some pressure with one or two of them into their opponent's base. It's usually expected to be scouted. If it doesn't, then of course you're in the best position ever. But with the Heart of the Swarm, how it works now, especially with the sentries, the Dark Shrine is usually spotted by your Hallucinated Phoenix. DT is going down in the main base of Hero now. But of course the question being, will Hurricane send that Hallucinated Phoenix over, and how much is Hero really committing to it? Or is he just following this up with the next match?
Yeah. And the Dark Shrine is a little bit faster than Heart of the Swarm. And or cheaper, depending on how you build it. So... Twilight Council goes down for Hurricane. That is not what he wants here. And that could hurt a lot.
He should be able to spot what's going on and then react accordingly, but right now he does have nothing in the game that will give him means of detection, so he's taking a huge risk here. You can either go for the starport or going into the robotics, and robotics is usually what you want in PvP. Relying on oracles is something that we only rarely see by players, but it's still an option if you go into a Stargate play. We have the Robo being built regardless, but Twilight Council first here already indicating that he wants to go into an attack as well. And there's the Dark Shrine going down for Hurricane.
Had he gone for a faster forward pylon, I think he could have actually just come in here and done a ton of damage if the sentry misses its force field. But as it is, the pylon is so late that he could have been warping in DTs right now, but he's not.
And as expected, the Hallucinated Phoenix is on the way, scouting everything that's happening, sees the Dark Shrine as well, so he's going to keep that that observer close. And we have the expansion already being built by Hero. So exactly what we expected earlier. The ramp being controlled, the observer not here just yet, the force field forcing them out, and they're going down at the Nexus, but of course they won't be able to take it out.
Yeah, not a whole lot can get done here. In fact, I hope he runs those away. If he gets trapped here and loses both DTs, that would be awful. He's just going to damage the shields and then come back later. Here comes the Observer.
Yeah.
Dark Shrine is hidden by Hurricane, which I really like.
Yeah, that's one of the things that we talked about earlier. If you get it in the main base, you expect it to be scouted. If you try to hide it, then you have a shot of taking your opponent down or at least getting a few kills here. But we have another observer in the game, and this one is controlled by Hero. So it depends where exactly he's using it. And so far, he's actually making efforts to scout what's going on in Hurricane's main base, which means that he has no observer at home.
And there's a forward pylon really close by.
So those TTs could actually do a lot of damage. If he warps in two, goes with one to the natural, with the other one into the main base, it's going to take some time for a Hero to get an additional observer out, and that will mean probe calls, probe kills.
Halfway done with that second observer. Or no, actually, it's the wrong production tab I'm looking at here. He's got no observer in production. Now he cancels the Immortal and starts it. DT needs to actually take some swipes, though. One goes down. Let's get a second one. And actually, right now, Hero is 10 workers behind. 11, 12. Losing so much here. The observer is out, but he can still actually kill a few more.
Yeah, he needs to target a little bit better here. Baiting out the overcharge. And yeah, the DT is walking back, but 5 kills, that's all that he could achieve. Yeah, and of course he killed mining time, which is quite important. The harvest account, as already pointed out by Wolf, is massively ahead for Hurricane. And he has a really good position. He got the expansion a lot faster than Hero did, so the builds work out in his favor. He got his own observer right at the time when Hero had his own DT walking into, or attempting to walk into Hurricane's main base. And now all that Hurricane kind of has to do is gear up, get his production, and go for it.
It's going to go for a charge timing here, it looks like. Consider also that there was a cancel on the Immortal for Hero to get the Observer out, which affects how his Immortal count is looking right now. But against the Charge Zealot type timing, it's not going to be too useful. Does mean now that he only has 1 Immortal in his Immortal drop. And 4 gates, the charge, the +1, everything is going to line up here really nicely for Hurricane to hit this attack. And I'm a little bit worried for Hero. I don't know. The thing is, if he doesn't see this coming, there's no way he's going to hold it. He does see the gateways, so he has now an idea that a timing is coming.
Yeah, but even if he has an idea what's going on, it's going to be difficult for him to hold it. Force fields against an Archon are a bit questionable. I'm not quite sure what that was supposed to accomplish. Maybe he was just trying to trap the Stalker that was trailing behind, but that was way too close to the Archon. So, yeah.
That was weird. I don't know why he did that, but
It was quite interesting.
It certainly was.
It was like, oh, wait a second, they're actually going to crush both fields? I didn't know that.
Well, now he actually splits a DT away from the Immortal. Doesn't get the pylon. I don't think he got more than 1 or 2 kills there with the DT either. We didn't get a shot of it.
You know, I'm actually not quite sure if Hurricane is really moving out now. He's adding additional tech. I don't think he's going to do it. He could add an expansion as well, but he needs to attack soon if he really wants to make it work, because he's actually given Hero already a lot of time to get his own army in the picture. And of course, Hurricane's still in the better position, but Hero will have the defender's advantage. He will have the photon overcharge there, so he could actually just make this happen. But as shown right now, upgrades are in favor of Hurricane 2. It's just the Colossi. Will they be out in time? Will range be there for you?
Hero is getting Archons with this. Why you got the Templar Archive, or rather Hurricane is. Hero is getting cannons and making a full wall here, which is why, you know, arguably we should have seen the attack earlier, but with the Immortals in the back, he should be able to knock down that wall. Comes through with the Archon leading the charge. The Immortals trying to kite, and even though the double overcharge here, or the double time warp, he's still breaking through.
Breaking through, but the Colossus is now in the game without range so far, so that's going to be a problem against the Immortals that we see for Hurricane now. The double time warp goes down, and both players really trying their best. Hero, of course, hard pressed as we mentioned before, but at this point in time, he's dancing the Immortals!
He's dancing the Immortals! But is this over? It looks likely to be, as he's not able to hold his ramp. That gateway finishes, not a whole lot of production here.
The Immortals just going to town at the Colossi. He's dancing even the Zealots that he just warped in that Hero doesn't even see. Putting up a show for the spectators here. Hurricane taking the 1-0 lead in the series with a nice build order advantage.
Yeah, just defending against those DTs really nicely. Having the robotics there. I really feel like Hero could have done, I mean, a massive amount of damage if he had just made his forward pylon on time. I mean, that's just one of those beginner level mistakes. Not to say that he played like a beginner, but that's the kind of mistake that you make in Diamond League where you're like, oh, my DT timing, I learned it, I studied, then you just like, I forgot my pylon. I mean, he had a probe there for so long, he could have warped it in a minute, 2 minutes before.
You think so? I don't think so. Like, he scouted the Dark Shrine exactly in time to block the ramp, and even if the
his DTs would have been there first, I think. Like, they would have gotten there first before he saw the Dark Shrine. You saw it when he ran the DTs in, the sentries barely got there in time. If he were there, I mean, 30 seconds before, 30 in-game seconds, that is to say, not 30 real-life seconds, I think he would have gotten at least one of the DTs in. It would have been close for sure. But he didn't have a whole lot of units either. He could have maybe even killed the sentries. But the DTs were just, they were delayed there. Regardless, he wouldn't have won the game, but he would have done some damage. And when you commit that much, you really just got to make sure you got that pylon up. He had his probe on the front of the map for so long. I feel like he may have even looked on the main map and thought he already made it.
Well, I think his choice to go there was not to kill his opponent. I mean, if you really want to do that, you're going to proxy the Dark Shrine anyways, as Hurricane did. But he was was aiming for that expansion the entire game. He built that expansion even before he moved out with DT. So,
yep.
I don't know.
Well, as it is, Hurricane with a solid defense in game number 1. Can he get the 2-0? We'll find out right now. Let's jump into game number 2. This is WCS Korea Challenger League with Calder and Wolf.